If you are wondering what the heck to do with Gelli Plates, then this video is for you. I will be using Gelli Plates, found objects, and acrylic paint to create textured backgrounds that I will use for surfaces for more artworks in the future. If you love learning about art, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a tutorial. Gelli plates are a very popular material with art teachers, and I'm going to be using these random found objects, scraps of cardboard, packing peanuts, lids from drinks, yarn, and basically anything I can find that I think will make a really interesting texture or stamp. I will also be using some more organic objects like feathers, branches, and leaves, and if I had a flower, I would totally use that. Also, randomly, I found some Legos in my classroom. We were making found object assemblages, and a student brought in a whole bag, so of course I had to give it a try. Gather up any found object that you think will make a really fun, interesting texture, and then just experiment. The worst thing that can happen is you hate your print, let it dry, look at it the next day, and you just never know what you can do with these really cool, really textured surfaces. You will need something to print with, and I'm choosing to use acrylic paint. I've heard that heavy body acrylic paint works really well, and you can also use printing ink. I've seen this done with watercolor, tempera, the list goes on. And if you find the actual Gelli Plate YouTube channel or Instagram page, you have hours worth of content that you can look at. This is not a sponsored video, by the way. This is me just buying into a trend and seeing if it's something I can actually use in my classroom. I'm using a variety of craft acrylic paints, liquid, metallic paint, and also some regular like Blick acrylic that I have. Basically, I grabbed all options for acrylic paint and I'm gonna see what works best. I am pouring my inexpensive acrylic paint directly onto the Gelli plate and using a brayer to spread it out. This is optional. You can also use a paintbrush, and I had one student finger painting, which really made me want to try it. It looked like so much fun. So however you spread your surface with paint is totally up to you. I have a ton of these brayers in the classroom. I'm experimenting with a palette knife, and you can see it kind of removes some of the paint, which would be really interesting to play with. Gelli plates would be great for monotypes, and that is where you make basically a painting, and then you pull one print. Mono means one. And these are really easy to work with surfaces. So that would be a direction I would take this in the classroom next time. Maybe try out some mono prints, maybe some contour drawing, some quick printmaking would be really fun. The purpose of today's video, though, is simply playing around with found objects and creating interesting backgrounds that my students will be using for their printmaking assignment where they're doing lino cuts. One thing you may want to do is have another surface to roll ink on. So you can see I have my brayer, I'm holding it kind of awkwardly. If you don't want it to mix and you can treat it kind of like a stamp, put paint or ink on another surface and then apply it without it all blending together. So you can really blend your colors and make it very smooth and have a lot of unity, or you can go back in and stamp by adding your paint to create a second layer. One thing to keep in mind is acrylic paint dries really fast, so you need to use a paint extender, which I am not doing because I am cheap, or you need to just work quickly. I did have one student try this and it completely dried on her. We did spray it with a water bottle to see if we could reactivate the paint, and we got some of it back, but not a lot. So I would say if you're spending more than 5 minutes getting your background, you might be disappointed when you go to print. This Lego is so fun. I just love these circles, and that was just like a random piece of plastic that I found. And then I'm using the Legos for those really fun, super organized circles. All right, moment of truth, time to print. I'm laying just a basic piece of white drawing paper over my surface and gently taking my hand to make sure that the ink is spread out onto my paper. The type of paper you use doesn't really matter, but if you go too thin and use as much paint as I did, your paper will rip and stick. All right, first print done, and I'm really happy with the effect. That silver really takes it to the next level. So as you see, I have a lot of ink, or paint I should say, still left. So I'm gonna do something called a ghost print. And a ghost print is where you don't add more ink and you do a second print without changing your surface, and it's gonna be much more faded, much more light, but it can provide some really interesting drawing surfaces. So as you can see, the silver paint transferred really well, and I can see a Zentangle happening on this piece of paper. All right, I'm not gonna clean my Gelli plate and kind of see what happens. And I have this beautiful leaf from some flowers that a student brought me. Thank you, Cadence. I love the flowers. That was so sweet and thoughtful of you. And as they were kind of slowly dying, as flowers do, I thought, wow, this would make a really dynamic print. In the top right hand corner, you can see where I poured that really pretty blue paint. It's kind of out of frame in the camera just because it hooks on the table. And I put a whole bunch of it on my brayer. And the goal here is for the plant to block, and you can see it kind of moves around, to block the paint, and that will be the white space, and for the blue paint to capture the background. We'll see how it goes. You can see my paint is really thin, but because I'm using these for backgrounds, that's totally fine. If I'm drawing over this, I want the background to be fun and interesting, but I don't want it to take away from whatever I'm drawing. If I use this for a background for printmaking, I don't want all the carving that I did with linoleum to be distracted by a lot of details. Let's print this one and see what happens. Taking my hand, as you can see, and smoothly rubbing, making sure to touch 100% of the surface. And that's one thing students don't do enough of, is actually making sure it transfers. And look at that. That is so fun. I love how the leaf goes outside the border and the colors are just awesome. I don't know about a ghost print with this one. I'm gonna add a little bit of green paint, spread it out with a palette knife and kind of see what happens. And because this one kind of has an organic vibe to it, after I apply some thicker green paint over the textured leaf that I already printed, I'm gonna throw on a few feathers and see what happens. They do kind of shrivel up a little bit, but they do look cool when printed. I know this because I watched a student do it before I attempted. So thank you for being my guinea pig, students. And then I'm going to pull a print and see what happens. Make sure that you are gentle when pressing with your hand, but consistently touching every square inch of your surface multiple times. Pulling my print, okay, there's a lot of white space, but this is actually really interesting. I like how the leaf is still there. I like how you can see the feathers, and this would be really fun to get a black drawing pen and see what happens. I'm gonna try this again with using the feathers because I felt like it was not very feather dominant. I know it looks kind of like a hot mess right now. I'm not cleaning it each time because I want to just kind of keep printing, and I'm using a similar color scheme each time. And so I'm gonna see with a little bit less paint and carefully kind of going over the feathers. That one definitely fell apart a little bit. To see what kind of print I can get with these feathers. I feel like I should use more kind of going in, but this is all about experimenting with found objects. Not every print has to be perfect. So let's pull this one and see what we get. Ooh, okay. Let's see, that middle feather is real weird looking, but I kind of love it. Okay, that's fun. The background's a little messy. I definitely know what I would do differently next time. All right, let's clean that plate and try a different color scheme. I just really love these metallic paints. I think they are just a really great way to make cohesive color schemes, and I love how they print. You can see I didn't clean my palette knife, so the green is making an appearance again. And I'm using a combination of the brayer and other objects to kind of spread out that paint. It is really thin. I'm using a lot of it so I know it won't dry too quickly. And then I'm gonna put some of this hot pink paint in the color scheme. It was really speaking to me. And I'm gonna use that blob with this piece of cardboard that I tore to get to the textured part. And I'm using that as just a direct stamp. I know that silver and pink look really nice together. And I'm just gonna fill this throughout the background so it has some moments of texture and some moments of bright color. I like overlapping when the cardboard has a little bit less paint to create like a lighter, more faded area. So not everything is that vibrant pink, even though I do love that color. And I'm gonna try laying some string on top of this, just on one side, to see what happens. The string should block the paint, or at least it will in the ghost print. And this is a technique I'm very interested in because I love Zentangles. You've heard me talk about them before in this video. And I'm thinking this will make a really interesting area to draw in. So I could see myself doing a whole jelly plate with just like strings. I'm using this bubble wrap in a very similar way that I did my cardboard. I don't want to take away from those lines, but I thought it might be fun to pop in a few of those. And why not add another color? Because, you know, this is an experiment. So what's the worst that can happen? Let's see if we can put some of this bright orange in there too. So this packing peanut is kind of fun to work with, but I have so much going on. It would probably be better if it was kind of by itself, but I do like that S. My first name is Sierra, so that S is giving me good feelings. And I just love a bright pink and orange color scheme. It just makes me think of the 90s in a good way. Let's see if I can get a few more of these circles on here. And I know it doesn't look like much now, but I'll show you some really awesome ones my students did with these same techniques and how they can enhance a drawing, a print, a painting, and other things. Let's go ahead and pull our print of this one. Same technique, using my hand to press. Look how fast I'm going here. Okay, I think I'm ready to pull this print. Let's see what came of this, and there we go. Ooh, look at that string. Okay, see, that's what I was going for. See how the string masks and covers up all of the other stuff? Let's try removing the string and doing a ghost print using the background, since that one had so much going on and so much paint. I'm interested to see what would happen if I just pull what's left after pulling my first print. So let's check this bad boy out. Well, this is my ghostiest of ghost prints, but it still has a fun quality to it, and I'm gonna hold on to it just in case. All right, here are my favorite examples of the experiments I did today, and here are some of my student examples on the day that we played around. So much fun. If you're interested in what to do with these prints, here's some more student examples of their lino cut printmaking project and how they used Gelli plates as a background. Thank you so much for sticking around and making art with me. And if you're interested in more tutorials for printmaking, check these out. Find my Instagram at thatartteacher_Machado to see what my students are up to in my classroom. And my website, thatartteacher.com, has free, full-length lesson plans, rubrics, and student examples.